Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Kyle. I like the Nintendo Switch.
This is Nick, and I guess I'm just a guy who said if you're going to make a big change, you might as well make all the big changes.
And I'm Brent, and I will admit I was unjustified in not believing in the Triple Crown winner, conveniently named Justify.
I see what you're
saying. The start of this episode is going to be a little bit weird compared to what we normally do. We start off with Nick, who's going to give a special announcement.
This is, if I may, episode 4. Let's go.
If you could just hush up for one hot second, I'm asking Kyle an important question.
Wait, are you serious?
This could be Kyle, a podcast moment.
Would you please stand at my wedding? I would be honored to have you.
Are you actually serious? Or is this like a joke?
No, why is this not part of the podcast?
We're roommates, friends. We play games most nights of the week. I would be honored to have you stand at my wedding, sir.
That would be awesome. I would love to. I would be honored.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I made the cut. Oh, nice.
Congratulations. Absolutely.
That was a beautiful moment.
Right?
Yeah. Kyle, in moments like these, it's if I can get up on my high horse here, in moments like these, it's a lot of men would look for a good man. And I can say confidently that I've got some.
I'm a pretty good man.
I'd say you're more than a good man, Kyle. I'd say you're a great man.
Thanks.
But for my wedding, I don't know. I'm looking for. Well, let's be honest. I think Kyle. We are in the presence of not a great man, but the best man.
Oh,
the best one. The best.
Brent, would you be my best man?
I would be honored. Whoa. What? Heather knows?
I don't know. Heather knows.
No, quiet down.
Oh, Sarah got ratted out. I'm honored. I accept.
Yeah, well,
I imagine you're doing this.
I don't accept. Okay, well, I already started recording, so this is, if I may, episode 4. Let's go. So, life updates. Nick, I think you picked out a best man.
Yes. We are in the presence of the best man.
And a groomsman.
I already knew. I knew like a week ago.
Kyle was like probably 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, maybe 2 weeks ago by now. Yeah, so Brent, when you were talking about like me potentially being a groomsman, like I already knew. For a week already. Yeah.
I told you. I had a list. So I had this whole list. I was like, who are Nick's 7 closest friends? And I could not keep you off of it, Kyle. So I was like, it logically makes sense.
Yeah, I already knew for like a week by the time you were talking to me about that.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah. Did it play it off well? Did I lie well?
Yeah. You're like, no, I don't think so. It's only been 2 years. And then I was talking about
there's no
Heather
way.
about,
he's got all his friends he always invites over. Like, there's no way.
I was like, what friends? And
Yeah, and Nick always had like 3 or 4 buddies over. I'm like, he's really good friends with those. Like, I don't think I make the list.
So I was thinking, I was like, well, he's only known Megan for 2 years, and he's known you for about the same amount of time. So it's just like, if he can marry someone after 2 years, he might as well groomsman after 2 years. Like,
right? Well, I guess if you look at it that way, like technically Nick and I met before Megan, but I mean we kind of like, and we even like went on a bachelor party before he really officially met Megan. So I've known Nick for longer than Megan.
Right? Yeah, true. Plus childhood, but we don't get into that.
Yeah, Nick was a dick. I was probably justified to that slightly, at least a little bit.
Yeah, you were slightly annoying.
Yeah.
I can't claim one way or another. I've apologized. I don't remember it.
Oh, man.
It's probably my fault. Oh, well.
It'll forever be stuck in my head, but it was good times.
Okay, I was just like cowering in Brent's room alone with his Megazord, playing with his Power Ranger Megazord on my own.
That's such a hard thing to be put into, as like, I don't remember how old we were, but it was just like, I have my really good friend Nick here, and I have my really good friend Kyle here, and they're not playing together, but we're all together. Like, how do I pick like who to hang out with? I remember being very conflicted.
It was rough. I also remember in like first grade, like me and Alan were both like, Brent, who's your best friend? Because we had a very big, I was super jealous because Alan was semi-new because he didn't jump in until first grade. And then I was like, Brent, who's your best friend? And you're like, Nick. And I'm just like, who's that? I think that was definitely partially just you couldn't pick either of us.
Doesn't go to our school.
I was like, who's Nick? I don't even know who that is. How can he be your best friend? First grade Kyle was very, very jealous.
I hope it's worked it out as you two become.
Wait, I think we're all mature enough at this point.
Other life updates, I guess for me, my wife and I are actually heading down our honeymoon tomorrow. Tomorrow after work, we're driving down to Chicago and then flying out of Chicago first thing Thursday morning to head over to Rome in Italy. So spend a couple days in Rome and then taking a cruise over to Greece. And once the cruise gets back to Rome, we're taking a train up to Venice and spending a couple days there. So I'm going to be out of the country for about 2 podcasts worth of stuff here. So I'll see if I can get Wi-Fi at a hotel or something and call in for 35 minutes. We'll have to schedule in when that'll happen. I don't know exactly when that'll work out.
If I may, we just recently got the whole, time change is different. I'm in Seattle now. Different story, but like, how does that work in Italy? What's the time going to be? We'll do it Central Time.
I'm pretty sure it's +7, +6 or +7. I think it's +6 in Italy and +7 in Greece. To us, because we're in the Midwest, Chicago time. So it's tomorrow there already.
Oh, it's gonna be wacky then. You're gonna just be so. It'll be good. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I'll have to be like, oh, I'm free, and then I'll have to see if it's a reasonable time for you guys, and then try to text you guys. I have unlimited text for our cell plan. We can do unlimited text. It's just calling that screws us for extra charges. Text is fair game.
That's good. You certainly have the bucket list locations as far as I'm concerned with respect to Rome and Greece. Throw in Egypt and maybe Hawaii and maybe 1 or 2 other places, and that's about the hot spots I'd consider going to. So no, that's awesome. That'll be fun for you guys. Yeah,
for sure. I know my wife was kind of planning it. She's like, "What do you want to see? Do you want to see this? Do you want to see that?" I just want to see cool old stuff. As long as I see cool old stuff, I'm going to be happy.
Is that like what are you looking for most? Like what old thing?
I think honestly the Colosseum is going to be sick.
I was about to say that.
That's my biggest thing. So in Rome, obviously the Colosseum I think is going to be the biggest thing there. In Venice, I think it's just going to be in general walking around the city and or a boat ride around the city. I think Venice in general will be its own experience as a city. I don't think there's any as far as I know, I don't think there's any huge landmarks there where it's like this is the thing to see in Venice besides the canals. So that's kind of what I'm excited about for Venice. And then for Greece, I just want to see the Pantheon or the old Olympic, the founding of the Olympics, that kind of stuff.
That's gonna be awesome.
Good choices.
We'll post pictures on Instagram and whatnot as we can or have internet availability. Apparently on the cruise they charge you up the butt for internet, so it'll likely be once we get to the hotel and whatnot. So we'll figure it out. We'll get stuff posted.
Awesome. And I guess my life update, I took a kind of cruise of my own, cruise in a car across the country to Seattle. It's kind of weird to think that, just a week ago from now, I was in Madison sleeping in an old apartment, and now it's a brand new apartment, new city, 3 incredibly long days in a car. It was, you go flat plane, mountain, flat plane, mountain, just over and over again until you get there. But it was quite the adventure with, I think our caravan had 1 moving truck, 1 car or 2 cars, 4 people, a dog, 2 cats, lots of luggage. It was very cool experience. Don't want to do it again, but very cool experience.
Eventually, you'll have to do it back the other way.
Settled in. just before this podcast, we were hiking a mountain. And before that, we spent all day in the DMV. So getting the best of both worlds, I guess, or the worst of one world, and just kind of the logistics of it all.
Very nice.
Do you officially both have Washington license plates and Washington driver's license?
So we got the license plate. That's going to be kind of a bit to adjust to because I've been looking at the same license plate for the last like 4 or 5 years. So trying to figure out which one that is. It's like, oh, is that my car? No, it is Washington. Oh, wait. No, I do have one.
You'll hear the announcement over the thing saying, oh, so-and-so plate number has their lights on.
No,
that's not
that
me.
Can't be me. No, it has a Washington plate. No, that's going to be confusing. We have our driver's license, but they are a sheet of paper right now. I guess it's going to take probably a week to get the actual license in the mail. So that's kind of exciting. I don't know what the picture looks like. I smiled, if that says anything.
Hopefully you'll look good.
My eyes were probably closed, most likely, based off of every other picture I've ever taken.
Perfect.
And Nick, I think you have a mini housing update.
Yeah, I started the year and I thought to myself, I might as well just make all the big changes at once. So, not actually, I didn't say that to myself at all whatsoever. But yes, I've proposed to Megan. She said yes, graciously, of course. So
always
we have this wedding. Yes. We have this wedding to plan and figure out. We are going to be moving in the relative near future, and we are in the last stages of buying a house. Our offer was accepted. However, we have the inspection to go through yet. So some nuances there, figuring out the details. We're pretty confident that everything will work out nicely, but just doing our due diligence and trying to not get too excited and keep an even keel so that we can, go in with a critical eye and see if there's anything we need to be aware of before we finish this purchase. So that's all horribly exciting. And also the job interview I had went very well on Monday. I'm not necessarily looking to change positions, but going through the exercises, and it sounds like a good opportunity. So we'll see if that pans out. I think I have. I think I have one more phase of the interviewing process before there's a potential offer on the table for me to make a consideration. But it would be quite the year between proposing, buying a house, and even changing jobs. So we'll see if it all pans out or how it all works out. It's quite the adventure, and it's absolutely ongoing.
Yeah, and if I may, you've kind of brought this all in a surprise. Like last week, like, oh, I'm kind of looking at a house, like we're just testing the market or whatever, and oh yeah, I might be looking at other jobs, keep my options open. And now it's like I'm in the final stages of an interview and I'm closing on a house, and it's just like, whoa, like it's been a busy week for you.
I got a text tonight. What is this, like an hour ago? Oh, and I think I just bought a house, kind of, sort of.
Well, it's not official. There's still got to be an inspection. So I think I bought a house, but it's not official. Papers aren't signed, so.
Kind of, sort of.
That's kind of, sort of bought a house.
Saying that.
Very cool. Well, let's get into like one of the topics, although we had 12 minutes of very entertaining fun. My topic, Nintendo Switch. First of all, one of the best consoles ever designed and made. It now has Fortnite. Just released if I may, tonight, I believe.
Hashtag fanboy.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I didn't have any Wii. Like I think my parents had the Wii. Never played that. I had the GameCube as a kid. I had a Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advanced SP, the GameCube, and I haven't touched a Nintendo system. I think I played the Wii like 5 times total at like Brent's house, and then the Switch came out. And literally opening night, I learned about it. Like the night it was released, and I was like, you know what? Looks cool. I like the thought. I'm going for it. So I literally just went there. I was like, I didn't do any reservation. I was like, if I get one, I get one. If I don't, not too upset about it. Don't really need to spend the whatever $300. But if I get one, I think I'll like it. And the Zelda looks awesome. I got that, and it has been zero regrets. That this thing is like it's the best console in the world, and it now has Fortnite.
Yeah, I would say it's amazing.
Uh-oh. Nick, did you just lose Brent too?
Yeah, he cut out entirely.
Oh my god!
Oh, you're good. You're back again.
You're there.
I shouldn't be. Oh,
we told you not to move from that one spot, if I may.
That one spot. That always happens. So this, like Nintendo, I feel like the Wii was really good. the Wii
The
U
Wii U
kind
was
of
god awful.
flopped. Like, I think there were some really cool concepts behind it, but it,
if I may,
had no.
was the Wii U not basically the same thing except just some souped up sensors?
Pretty
What
much.
was different about
Brent,
the
I think you meant the Wii was awesome, and the Wii U bombed.
Yeah, but it bombed. But there were some interesting concepts behind it. But it seems like with the Switch, they combined the lessons they learned from the Wii and the Wii U to just make the great game experience that it is. I mean, it's and the games that they get out for it's awesome. But everything about the Switch is right now like it's really cool.
That it is. I know. Like,
I'm still an Xbox guy or a PlayStation guy. I like the original consoles. I'm a huge Nintendo fanboy in the sense that I will always love playing a Mario and Luigi type game, Kirby and all of their other big brands. Which has there been a Kirby game for the Switch?
There was. They just released Kirby Star Allies. I played the demo of it. It's a standard Kirby game. I was never really into the Kirby games, but it seemed pretty solid. It's definitely one of those things that would be fun with a group of people, but I just can't play it on my own. It's just not my kind of game.
Yeah, I always feel really nostalgic when I'm playing Nintendo type games, but as far as like more hardcore story based gaming, I've always really liked the standard console with even just the controller, the feel, whether it's PlayStation or Xbox. I've always been a huge fan of those. I was Xbox for a while, and then I was on PlayStation 2. I haven't had a PlayStation since, but I've played on friends who've had the more recent PlayStations, and they're all fantastic. It's interesting how they split with different games, but huge nostalgia hit for anytime you can play with Mario and Smash Bros. And Mario Kart and all the different characters. So,
well, like that's the thing about the Switch is you get those AAA experiences literally in the palm of your hands, and they have the Pro controller to make it kind of quote unquote more like an Xbox. It also upscales, like on handheld mode it's like 720p or something like that, and when you dock it jumps up to 1080 on your display. And so like it also has it has Doom, that's like a AAA game. It has Rocket League on it. Apparently Red Dead Redemption 2 is going to be coming to it.
Skyrim,
Far Cry 5 is going to be coming to it. Skyrim's on it. Like it's got some AAAs on it that are, fully, you got the full experience.
So I always kind of thought like, they always come out with these new consoles and it's really cool and this is really great. But honestly, in a way, it's the games that make the console. If you develop a good game for the console is going to do well because. I mean, you think about the Switch, Zelda came out with it and Smash Bros. And Super Mario Odyssey. Like these awesome games come out with it. And it's like, oh, I want to play it so I can play these games. I think, honestly, the problem with the Wii U is there weren't any great games that were like, I have to get this console for the game. Apparently, so in a way, I feel like it's the game that makes the console.
If I may, if I may, I think one of the other problems with the Wii U was that apparently it was really hard to develop for. So, game makers didn't want to put in the extra effort for the Wii U when they get all the other systems for, if they can get all the other systems for 95% of the effort, and then the Wii U itself would take, 30% extra effort in order to just get it to the Wii U. That's why a lot of the games just weren't made for the Wii U.
Yes, if I may now, the one time I did have a lot of success with the my father actually owns a Wii U. He wanted to get a gaming system for the two girls, and that was a more family friendly setup, and I could kind of teach them how to play it, and that was what was out for Nintendo at the time. So that worked really well for the girls playing those kinds of games and learning on it, and that worked. There didn't need to be a ton of games. Super Mario Chase, I believe, or just Mario Chase. I think it's just Mario Chase was one of the best drinking games I think I've ever played. I don't know if I've ever played that with you guys, but
with the girls, did you play with the young girls? Or
no, we did play Mario Chase, but not the drinking game with the young girls.
All right,
at any rate, I had this system for them, and I tinkered with it a little bit, of course, as a gamer. The one time we had a lot of success outside of the drinking games, of course, was actually when we had Megan join us. We had Megan play while myself and Nate were playing a game of Mario. And what worked out really well is we had our individual controllers, and then the Wii U has that pad. And on the pad, Megan wouldn't have to control one of Mario, Luigi, or the Toads. She would be able to be kind of this Overwatch position, and the Overwatch can essentially impact the game without actually being a character. So anytime we wanted something or we're going to fall off the map, Megan would be watching, and she would put a block into the world that would save you from falling. And she could impact the world as kind of an Overwatch character. And it was fun for her because she didn't have to worry about the controlling of a character, the movement within the game. She could just kind of watch and help out. And if we wanted to jump somewhere that we couldn't get on our own, we could have her build a flight of stairs, and it worked out really well, actually.
I do remember seeing that game for the Wii U, and it was that game, Pokemon Tournament, and then it had a new Star Fox, and then the Smash Bros. Those were kind of like the 4 games that I'm like, oh, maybe I should get a Wii U, but I just
To your point though, the controls and developing that game, I can't imagine, because essentially you have to develop a game, which would be the same as any other console, but then you needed to have this extra dimension of controls and abilities, which would make it very complicated. So it's not all that surprising that it definitely struggled, but it did work out well for Megan, because she didn't move all that well, just not being a gamer growing up, having to maneuver within the game, run, jump, hop, and look in different directions. So, but she had a blast being the Overwatch person, and she was super helpful for us, because anytime we wanted to get somewhere on the map that you couldn't regularly get, she could just build you a stairway, or if you were going to fall, she could build a bridge for you, and it was cool. It worked out well.
Yeah, I know one of the other things that I saw that the tablet was used really well for was in Call of Duty. Like, that was the player 2 screen. So when you go split screen, player 1 would have the main screen, and then player 2 would then have the handheld screen. That's a good idea. That way you don't have to play split screen. You both would have a full viewing experience.
Mm-hmm.
So if I may, we kind of got off the tangent. Nintendo Switch got Fortnite, and if it gets you, Kyle, to play Fortnite, then I'm all for it, because I know historically you've not been for it, and it'd be nice to have you join on, even if it's cross-platform. So
I don't mind Fortnite. To me, I don't know. There's just not enough variety of stuff to do. It's just the same thing over and over. Like, I don't feel it challenges me mentally. It's more just kind of like another shooter.
I agree. It gets repetitive real fast.
Like, it's a great
game. They do
game,
come out with weekly game modes. Come out with weekly game modes, which are a bit entertaining. The Thanos thing for Infinity War, all right, that was kind of cool. I mean, it was a nice mix-up. But again, it's the same kind of thing. Now, it's unique in the sense that you can basically play Minecraft while you're trying to be the last survivor on this island. And I think I have never played PlayerUnknown's Battleground, but I liked how Fortnite worked, where you could basically play Minecraft and build all this different stuff, and also have the shooter aspect that was fairly solid. I'm not going to say perfect, but solid.
Yeah, and I know, like, because PUBG started as being just a super good game that people really liked, because it was more kind of like apocalypse-y, and it was a different take. It's got so many
details.
Yeah, it has a lot of details. And then I forgot the name of the company that made Fortnite, but they basically saw that they had their initial game, which was like a zombie survival. Yeah, Epic Games. They had their zombie survival game. They're like, hey, let's just make this battle mode on the side, have it free. We'll throw it in there as a freebie. And all of a sudden, that's blowing up bigger than the main game itself that they started with. So it's
100 times, maybe 1,000 times in the microtransactions.
Millions. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. But it's one of those things that right now, I think Fortnite is popular. Number one, it's fairly simple. It's easy to learn, hard to master. And then number two, I mean, obviously free is always going to help you. But then also, it's just the popular thing to like right now. I think that's the other main factor. I think at one point in time, one of the Twitch streamers had like Drake or somebody, I don't know who it was, but somebody super popular playing it, and they capped it, and it was like spread all over Twitter, and all of a sudden everybody famous wants to be part of that, and get a taste of that, because I'm sure like people that are famous, they're like, hey, I do like gaming as well on the side, and if I can actually do something that helps me in my career, and I get to game while doing it, it's a win-win. So I think it just became the popular thing to like, and now all of a sudden it's blowing up because everybody likes it.
And having subbed in the schools, I saw it across the board from elementary school to high school. The amount of like Fortnite dances and references and talk. I mean, I saw kids playing it on their phones even, which they shouldn't have been and got yelled at for. But it's really the younger generation. Like everyone's kind of picked up on it, and it's just big thing rolling downhill right now. It's huge.
That's the other thing is it's a safe game. There's no blood and guts. Like it has the cartoony shooting aspect, but there, no blood. You get like little pinging cartoony numbers above the opponent's head, and then dying, you just kind of go down, and then you pass out kind of thing, rather than, it's not a killing game, so parents are okay with it compared to like a Call of Duty or a Battlefront.
Yeah, looking at that, it's kind of what, like, comparing like a music artist, what makes a music artist cross over, being from country to rock to pop to all the different things. Taylor Swift being the prime example. She started with country music and was able to transition into more of a pop, and now she does a little bit of everything. Games can do the same thing if they take the right approach. What's going to make a game playable for any generation? You have these young kids starting out, not that any kids or their parents really do their due diligence with respect to the what's the mature 17 or whatever the rating is.
Yeah, the rating system.
If you have that, you immediately cut off a huge part of your market. And I mean, especially with games, you're almost always selling to the kids. I mean, as an adult gamer, you almost feel like a bit of an outlier. There's not a whole lot of stories for you, and you feel at times childish playing a lot of the games, and especially like Fortnite. Having played that and being put on different teams, as soon as you hear what's probably a kid who's 10 years old, maybe 12 if you're lucky. I mean, not that makes a huge difference. You just feel out of place playing those games, but it's still fun if you meet the kids in our case. And then as far as the kids playing it, it's safe. It's I mean, yes, this one has guns, so that could be argued.
It's rated T. I looked it up.
Yeah, it's safe enough where there's not blood and guts, and yes, you're shooting people, but it's not horribly violent, which maybe that's a problem. And if I could get up on my pedestal and say games with guns should be banned, or all games that contain any kind of a gun should be a certain kind of rating, but we'll stay off that one. But the ability for the game
if I may back up there, so you would be personally a fan of all games with guns being an M rating? Is that your stance? It was kind of hard to understand your stance there.
I'm not making a stance. I'm stating
make a stance. We want to hear your stance.
If I have to make a stance on the spot, if we're playing to the lowest common denominator, which unfortunately America definitely is at this point, theoretically there should not be a game that allows you to shoot anybody or use a gun in any way, shape, or form that is not meant for adults exclusively. That would be my opinion, but I mean, the thought behind that being, and again, this is on the spot, so forgive me, but the thought behind that being that if you're a kid and you're playing games that have guns in them, and all you hear is the cool little ting when you get a headshot, you don't ever connect that to actual physical real life violence. And again, playing with the lowest common denominator, you have people who just think, oh yeah, I shoot someone with a gun and it just goes ting and it's real clean and they fall over and it's no big deal. And that's not, of course, the reality of the situation. Now, would I have been a fan of that growing up? No, of course I want to play those games. Am I a huge fan of that now? No, but if we're trying to protect people from themselves and with the non-existent parenting that exists with a lot of kids today, maybe that's something to consider. But I didn't want to go down that path. Thank you for making it.
Are you a fan of the Splatoon series or know what it is?
Doesn't ring a bell.
Brent?
Yeah, Splatoon's kind of like a paintball type game where they have a lot of the shooter aspects, but it's based off of like paint. Like instead of, you shoot them with a little paintball gun.
So Splatoon 2 is on the Nintendo Switch. Great game as well, but that game is a shooter. But the goal is to paint the map as much as you can. If you have the most surface area of the map, there's different game modes, but the main one is if you paint the most surface area of the map, you win. Obviously, if you run into an enemy while you're trying to paint the map and you paint them enough, they will, die, get inked, and then have to go back to their spawn point, and then they are not a threat of painting over what you just painted. that game is rated E by Nintendo, and it's from Nintendo. So I guess I don't know I don't know if we want to keep going, but just an interesting thought there.
Yeah,
that is actually a very interesting thought.
And it's not just guns; they have like paintbrushes that you whip around and buckets that you like shovel paint. So it's not strictly guns.
That game would probably be just as good if you didn't have the ability to shoot the other player. If you didn't have the ability to do that. Now, I feel like I'm being a regulator who's overstepping and like making rules that are way over the top. But the way gun culture is perceived in America today, that's not something you want to teach people. That's not something that someone wants to have to answer a question to. Because I mean, take it to the nth degree. What happens when a school shooter, the FBI is going through their files after the fact, and the number one game they play in their spare time is Splatoon 2, and the gun they used looks a lot like the gun that paint
must be
gun.
One souped up water gun.
Yeah, well. Whatever it is. The point being, any game that has an element of that, if you're truly playing to the lowest common denominator, which is not a place I want to be, but it's the reality of it, unfortunately, it probably needs to be ranked or rated higher. Now, again, I enjoy these games. I love to play them. I absolutely, grew up on them, and I'm normal, but we're pretty exceptional, evidently. So,
well,
hard to say. I'm glad I don't have to make the rules.
Okay, I got to throw this in there for the water gun thing. In the 90s, the Super Soaker line was super popular, and one of the guns that my dad had and still does have is the CPS 2000. You got to look that one up. That one, apparently, I heard this stat. This is a zarubust stat, that the majority of those guns, they're so rare because at least the first round of them, before they put a limiter on them, a lot of them are in police custody because they were used in some sort of crime of injuring somebody else. Because the Super Soaker was so powerful.
Well, I'm sure that company got a lot of lawsuits. That's all I can say on that front.
I mean, the thing is, though, is that you could make it M, and kids are still going to find a way to play it. I mean, parents...
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Well, I guess if we want to go into that for a second, with the whole rating system, doesn't matter anymore. With the whole physical games not really being a thing, you can just purchase it online. Does M rating matter?
Yeah, but theoretically you need a credit card to purchase it. Now, if you have parents who are ignorant to the ways of children getting a hold of credit cards and running with their money, you've heard nightmare stories of kids buying things with Alexa, or buying things with on a certain website where they just go and say this. Or I think the Alexa story was a kid went and talked to the Alexa that was in their family's house and said, buy me a castle. So Alexa ordered a $200 or $400 like Barbie dream castle thing or whatever it was. And the parent flipped out like, what is this? Well, the kid told Alexa to buy it and confirmed it. So Alexa ordered the number one kids castle for Barbie or whatever. And you have microtransactions with all these games whether it's on your phone, or Fortnite's a perfect example. If a kid says, hey, can I buy this game was free, it only cost me this, I play it all the time, is some parent going to give their kid the credit card so they can go buy the newest skin or the newest dance on Fortnite? And of course, a lot of parents are doing it because you see so many players and have these things, and
all their friends are doing it.
The fun stat on the Fortnite mobile release for the phone was they were making several $1 million a day in their first couple weeks of rolling out the mobile version of Fortnite. So you have all those microtransactions, you have all that going on. That probably gets past a lot of people. I think the thing with the regulation is, again, playing the lowest common denominator. You protect yourself when you say, someone bought this game for this child. It wasn't allowed to do it on its own. It didn't just stumble into this. It's someone who can then be accountable's fault. Now, again, that's a poor reason, but it's the reality of it, especially legally speaking. If a child becomes a nuisance or becomes a problem or has issues, and God, this is way out of my scope. I have no business talking about any of this, but I'll share my 2 cents. Just disclaimer, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a professional. I don't have a psychology degree or anything like that. But hypothetically, if a kid is allowed to do something and their parents are enabling it despite the recommendations of society, aka these warnings or labels saying children under this age shouldn't do this, then hypothetically, more so than if you didn't have those labels, the parent or legal adult is responsible. Of course, the child's always responsible, but the adult can then feign ignorance or feign stupidity with respect to, well, I didn't know the kid could do that. Why could my kid do that? Well, no, the kid couldn't do this. You allowed it to. It takes the excuse away of them having obtained whatever it is. That's the point of those labels, and that's why I would see it very reasonably in the near future, given our current state in America, especially with gun culture, that anything that involves shooting whatsoever will be made rated M. But that was a heck of a tangent, if I may.
Oh yeah, that was good. That was really good.
I remember hearing a story once where this kid bought like a couple $100 worth of stuff on iTunes because her mom was sleeping, and she just used her mom's fingerprint to confirm purchasing a bunch of stuff. Gosh.
Wow.
Point being, the children will always find a way, and yes, some parents will allow their kids to do it, and for the parents who don't allow their kids and they still find a way, it just becomes when there's a police investigation or a legal issue of any kind, it takes an excuse out of the parents' hands to say, well, no, they didn't just buy this on their own. You had to buy them or buy it for them, or you had to do this for them. Whether it's an older brother who bought a game for their younger brother, or mom who just bought the game and didn't pay attention to the labels or the warnings, or whatever it may be, it takes an excuse out of their hands to say, well, I didn't know this, or how did he get his hands on that? I would never allow that. Well, actually, you did allow that because we have warnings and protections and procedures, but it probably never accomplishes anything, but just my speculation.
We are on episode 4 of If I May, and Brent, I thought you might have had a topic.
Oh, yeah. So episode 4, and I was thinking, we're from Wisconsin, and even though we might not be living there, or not all of us living there anymore, something that's always been, I kind of grew up with this guy, near and dear, 4 important, Brett Favre, the 4. You think the number 4, all I ever see is Brett Favre. And I don't know, what do you guys think about the eternal legend that is Brett Favre?
I got a couple strong, if I may, I have a couple of strong thoughts about Brett Favre. Number 1, going to the Jets, totally fine. Like, we're cool with that. He was going to retire anyway, end of contract. It's a team that could use his help. They weren't doing that well at the time. That's fine. Going over to the Vikings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. That's where he lost a lot of fans. Second big thought about Brett Favre is, God, as Green Bay Packer fans, we are pretty damn lucky to have 3 Hall of Fame quarterbacks basically in a row. Small gap between Bart Starr and Favre, but
that didn't count. That's not part of Packer history. Nothing happened in the 80s.
Yeah, exactly.
Bart Starr, Brett Favre,
Rodgers.
If I may, I believe the fun stat that we like to throw up during any Bears game that we can is, I think for the last probably coming up on 20 years, the number of starting quarterbacks for each team. I believe you have one Brett Favre, you have one Aaron Rodgers, and I believe you have Matt Flynn thrown in there, and now you have Brett Hundley. So now you have, I believe, 4 starters for the Packers in the last 20 years, roughly. This is another, if I may, stat, 20 years. And then you had the list of Bears starting quarterbacks. Of course, there's the best player to ever play for Green Bay. For the Bears for Green Bay, Jay Cutler.
The joke is the top 4, who are the top 4 best quarterbacks for the Packers? You got Rodgers. In descending order, you got Rodgers, you got Favre, you got Bart Starr, and you got Cutler.
Jay Cutler.
He's the best quarterback for the 4th best quarterback for the Packers
ever, no doubt. But you have those list of the players for the starting quarterback position for the 2 teams, and I think the obscene number from the Bears was 20 plus. maybe 30. Sorry about your fiance there, or wife. Sorry, I'm saying fiance for me now, but sorry about your wife there, Kyle, who happens to be a Bears fan.
She's not
but
exactly
I think she'll understand
a Bears fan. She's more of a Colts and Saints fan, but she's not. She's more
not better.
Not better. But she was more of like an anti-Packers fan because of living by Chicago. But she's coming over.
Oh,
how does she feel about that?
It's more of those subtle things that subliminal messaging where she's just slowly getting won over little by little, and eventually she'll be an official fan.
If I may, everyone loves a winner, Kyle. She'll come around,
right? Well, now with us moving to Denver or to Boulder or Colorado, I can get behind the Denver Broncos. The Packers got no beef with them. Like obviously, if the Packers are on, that's who's going to win. But I can root for the Broncos every once, here and there when they're not playing the Packers.
And you can't claim to be a bandwagon fan. It's not like you were big when they had Manning on them. So you're joining at a time where it's kind of, it's related to your move. It's not because they're having a lot of success, although you see that they have the potential to have success. So that's good.
They need a quarterback, I've heard. I don't know anybody on the team. I've heard they need a quarterback, though. Since Manning left, there's been nobody that has big potential.
I believe they recently just picked up Case Keenum from Minnesota, so they should actually have a quarterback this year. That's slightly better than what they've had.
It's a rookie quarterback, though, right?
No, he did pretty well for the Vikings last year. He was a big reason why they were as good as they were, unfortunately.
Maybe they have some potential. I know that they were fairly strong in the wide receiver market, at least, when they won the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah. Nick, I appreciate that you left out Seneca Wallace. That was a dark time for Packers starter history.
Did he actually start?
Unfortunately, so.
So what's that put the number at? 5?
Oh, and May Scott Tolzien had, I don't remember. There was that year Aaron Rodgers went out the first time. There was kind of a carousel going. I don't know how they made the.
Yeah, there was like 2 or 3.
I would say I don't necessarily fault Favre for leaving to the Vikings. I think the thing that gets me is how many Viking fans are like, "Oh yeah, Brett Favre, that was our quarterback. That's our guy."
Yeah,
it's
right.
Like, that's what gets me. It's like, no.
And to be fair, it was also classic Brett Favre to throw an interception in the last game, where it's like, dude, just hold on to the ball, man. Like at that point, because the Packers were already out, it was like, oh, you might as well root for Favre. He's got to come on.
Probably the only time I'll ever root for the Vikings.
Yeah, if you watch that game again, it's like, dude, stupid.
It's like the exact same way he went out with the Packers as well.
Right.
Where he threw that interception to the Giants.
That's how it should have ended, is with him at least going to the Super Bowl with the Packers that last year.
Oh, they had it too. But oh well. We'll get there this year.
What do you record?
If I may.
You need a non-hurt Rodgers.
If I may, I could not be happier about Dom Capers being gone. I think Clay Matthews has 1, maybe 2 decent years left at middle linebacker, no longer on the outside, where he can be a utility. Otherwise, he's going to have to go the way of A.J. Hawk, and thank him for his service, thank him for his time. I'm a huge fan, always will be. But when you get too slow to keep up, the NFL is very unforgiving for lack of speed. So. Exactly. So with that understanding, couldn't be happier that Dom is gone. Really sad it took us this long to get rid of him. Mike McCarthy had the comment with a "if I may" stat, or "if I may" quote in this case, that he preferred the devil he knew rather than the devil that he didn't. Well, the devil you knew had us being one of the worst 4 defenses in the league consistently. I don't know if that's better than the devil you don't know, frankly. But that was his approach. And I will always hold that against him, because we had some great players on defense and could not seem to put them in the right position to succeed, which is poor coaching purely. So I'm excited to see what in this case, I guess the devil we don't know can do this year. Sounds like we have some cornerbacks, maybe not the highest quality, but we've got a good quantity at this point until they all get hurt. But fingers crossed and knock on wood that doesn't happen.
And -1 super, super awesome 87.
We'll miss you, Jordy.
That's where it comes down to business. I think Jordy could absolutely play another year or two, but at the end of last season, that was one of my thoughts, is whether or not Jordy was even going to be as productive as he can be. Again, the league is very unforgiving if you slow down ever so slightly. I mean, those guys are moving at a speed that none of us can probably comprehend moving that fast ourselves without a motor involved in some way, shape, or form. So, to even lose a step is painful. Now, Jordy's got the height to make up for it, and certainly James Jones showed that even when you lose that speed, if you've got Aaron Rodgers and you've got the right chemistry, you can be a utility.
Yeah, that's the other thing. If you have an Aaron Rodgers saying he's my guy, that's the part where I don't quite get the release.
That's a bit painful, yes.
Right? It's like you have an Aaron Rodgers telling everybody, "This is my guy. We will get the ball down the field, and he's the go-to guy if I need a play." That's hard to argue against.
Exactly. And you look at it, when Aaron Rodgers is gone, though, it kind of took off the veil of, okay, well, who knows what they're doing, who can play with anybody, or who's a niche player. And unfortunately, Jordy fell to the ranks of niche player with Aaron Rodgers. Now, when you have Aaron Rodgers throwing you the ball and you're a niche player, you're fine. You're the best in the league.
Well, that's the thing.
No
if
big deal.
Packers want to get in the Super Bowl, obviously, number one, they're going to need Aaron Rodgers because the team as a whole is elevated by 25% with him on it, compared to an average quarterback. Mm-hmm. You're going to need Aaron Rodgers, and if Aaron Rodgers wants certain tools, you give that guy certain tools.
True, but I feel like the Packers gave him the offer. They said, "Hey, Jordy, we know you're not the same player that you were even 2 years ago. You're coming off of some injuries. This is what we can offer you." And they lowballed him, which sometimes works. But Jordy did have the right to say, this offer isn't. Yeah, the unfortunate thing is that they didn't offer him a little bit better because he's a skill position, and I think one Jordy would be better than potentially 3 rookies, at least for this next year. Down the road, I hope, those rookies pan out to be a better investment, but hard to say.
I wish him nothing but success. With
For
Oakland,
sure.
Did he go?
Yes, Oakland.
They'll have a car throwing him the ball, I think.
Yeah.
That could be fun to watch. I'll definitely tune in for some of that.
All right. So
go ahead, Brent.
With wrapping things up, our closing segment, I think I'll take this one. I think the Super Bowl is a dream for the Packers. And coming back to what we were doing earlier in the show, talking about Kyle being a groomsman and I being honored as the best man. I heard out there's rumors that you, Nick, have a dream bachelor party. And my question for you is, what is your dream bachelor party?
If I may, I want to throw in here that Nick pre-talked to me before. Obviously, I talked to you, Brent, about his dream bachelor party. And then when I was talking to you, you started mentioning things to do. And I was like, oh, this is like literally exactly what Nick was talking about doing.
But please share.
Nick,
well, let's
make it easy for me.
Let's not go over the top and call it a dream bachelor party. Let's just throw it out there with what would be a good time. And it was funny because I was telling Kyle, and Juliana was in the back listening, and she's just like, "Oh my God, that sounds awesome! Can I come?" And it's nothing over the top. It's nothing crazy. But and I know with you guys being out of state now, or out of the Midwest, frankly, it'll be a bit tougher to schedule. But the initial thought I had was similar to Kyle's bachelor party, get together, do some jet skis. Instead of sharing one jet ski between the group of us, I'd say just let's get 2 big ones. And if we have enough people we want to rotate through on those 2 big ones, so be it. But let's go all out on that in that sense. And I'm happy to chip in to make that happen. Spend an afternoon doing that on like a Thursday, Friday, something like that. And then once our shenanigans are done, I'd probably spend most of the day. I don't know what the rental options are depending on where we go, if it's the same place or somewhere different, but get it in the morning, go most of the day, exhaust ourselves, do stupid things, play games. And then after the jet skiing adventures are over, probably pick up a keg and some drinks and go to Kearney and hang out there with our group, have a few drinks. We can mix in some four-wheeling. If we're not drinking, we can mix in some shooting as well, potentially.
We'll do the shooting first.
Ultimately, yeah.
Plus, you want to light out for that.
Do that, and then, lock those up afterward. But, go through those motions, enjoy the Carney area. Hopefully it'd be during some sort of a sporting event so that we could actually just chill out in the living room and watch TV and drink some beers up there and mix in some yard games or some cards, depending on the time of year, what the options are. But hanging out, having a few beers, and certainly the bachelor party itself could just be like the day we do the jet ski stuff and have the guys event. And then especially given that you have your wives traveling with you most likely, and they'll have to organize their bachelorette party, we could all potentially meet at Carney and hang out up there. And it's like a bunkhouse upstairs, so that would work pretty well for everyone to stay there anyway. So just a thought. That would work well. I'm not looking for the movie bachelor party where there's strippers and all the other crazy nonsense and cocaine and drugs. All sounds very interesting, but not my style. So we're gonna stay off that.
You definitely definitely strike me as a cocaine guy, Nick.
Yeah,
straight to the cocaine.
A few drinks and hanging out with some friends. Throw in something special like jet skiing, and then just hang out and be in the UP, and that's a pretty good. It's a pretty good weekend in my mind.
If I may, Kyle, did I not pretty much hit that to a T?
Almost exactly. You're like, let's do something. We can do something fun during the day, and then like go up to Carney and shoot guns and drink and whatnot and hang out. That was like almost Brent's exact words.
That'll work.
I'll just take that. It's a +1.
So we'll consider your input, Nick, or Brent will consider your input.
Yeah. We'll write it down. Or we'll save it on podcast. I'll just re-listen to this.
Yeah, there you go. Well, that was episode 4 of If I May. Hope everybody enjoyed. We'll be coming out with a new episode every Thursday. If we don't, well, because I'll be in my honeymoon, obviously we'll try to record at some point in time. So next week might be a little wonky as far as upload time. Again, you can find us on Anchor and YouTube. I did work in the background on getting a different method of getting us onto iTunes and Google Play, because Anchor was kind of failing us a little bit. So if Anchor doesn't work out in the next week or two, when I get back from my honeymoon, we'll swap over RSS feed providers and get something else going, even if we have to pay for it a little bit.
Does someone have to pay to listen to us on iTunes?
No. It'd be free for all the listeners.
Okay, good.
No. We wouldn't have anybody pay to have to listen to us.
Nobody wants to pay to listen to us.
No, definitely not.
No, I don't think so.
We're not worth that kind of time and money.
No, not at this point. Not worth it.
Are there even paid podcasts out there anymore?
Well, there's advertising. No, that you pay for the podcast. I don't think so. The closest thing I know of, I know some podcasts will do like a Patreon and do like an extra episode somewhere throughout the week for only the Patreon people to listen to. So that's the only thing I can think of. Otherwise, as far as the main podcast, that's always typically free at this point in time.
Oh, that's it. We start a new niche, the paid podcast.
No, there will be.
You come to us and you pay money.
There will be no niche. There will be no paid.
We're an average podcast here at best.
At best.
All right, that was episode 4. I'll catch you guys later.